at the 1916 Company. This is Watches Tonight, and I am Tim Mosso. Nick is on the switcher this evening, and I can see you already in the box. Thank you for joining us. This evening, we take the $50,000 challenge. One watch or a collection. We're going to explore both options. We chat live, and I share your wrist shots tonight on Watches Tonight. I want to quickly acknowledge today is Earth Day. Have a very happy Earth Day if you are observing, and a very solemn Passover to you and yours. Let's start with viewer wrist shots number one, starting with Jeff S., who has it all going on with tattoos, Bulgari Octo, and Ferrari 812. Does life get any better? Eric O. joins us from Manhattan Beach, California with his Rolex GMT Master 2 BLNR. Ivan F. of Los Angeles, a original resident of South Africa, is in Pioneer Town, California with a fine cigar and 1916 sourced HYT H0. Thank you for trusting our company. Reza F. of Tehran is at Faroki Jewelry with his new Patek Philippe Calatrava 6000G. That is one of my favorite Calatravas. Tony D. joins the party with his Vacheron Constantin Overseas Deep Stream Chronograph from Matt Parker here at the 1916 Company. Thank you for trusting us. Thank you for trusting Matt. Guys, send your wrist shots to Monday Mailbag at thewatchbox.com. See your watch in this box. Very soon it will be the1916company.com, so use that email address while you still can. In the box, we've got Edward Ledden, Soma R, Arto Charles, Nate Meyer, Mark S, Miroslav, Jim Miller to the UK. We have Pizza Man. We've got Sean Hansen, Slow Boy, Stuart Mogul from Sacramento. We have We Are, David Remus from Washington, D.C., and we've got Watches with Dennis joining in from the Heartland in Kansas, and Nate Dogg down in South Florida. Celine Driver, good evening, Tim, from sunny Sarasota, Florida, wearing my Navitimer American Airlines, procured from 1916, thanks to Bill Comfort. Love the Cockpit series, and thank you for trusting Bill. Thank you for trusting our company. All right, unless you have a limited budget, there are two approaches to watch collecting. First, you can put all your oysters in one basket and buy one full-time super watch. Second, you can break up your budget and buy a collection of situational watches to suit different needs. Tonight, we explore how I would approach both scenarios. For practical purposes, we're going to set a budget that's arbitrary, but also sufficient to enable either approach. And it's attainable with a few years of focused planning and saving, so this isn't shoot-for-the-moon millionaire stuff. This is something you could do in lieu of, for example, a second or third car. I will admit $50,000 isn't accessible to all, but it is accessible to many, especially people watching this show who've already decided that luxury watches are a big part of their lives. Now, for some, this is going to mean foregoing that car. For others, it might amount to one $7,000 watch a year for 7 years. And let's not forget that plenty of people with no real assets or income seem to rack up $150,000 in undergraduate tuition debt for basically useless degrees. So $50,000 on watches might actually be a better investment, or at least store of value, than, well, an alternative BA in interpretive dance. So again, set your own priorities, but watches are hardly the worst choice you could make right here for that kind of money. Please also offer your own selections in the live chat, and I'll read some and comment on your choices during the show. Let's see who else is in the box right here. Tanner, Brian, Joey, Time Hill, Jean-Luc, welcome. Staying up late with me in Switzerland right there. We've got Vincent S. joining in from Geneva. Another friend from Switzerland staying up late. Time Hill from Virginia in the American South. All right. One watch to rule them all. Scenario number one. Depending on how you view this philosophy, it's either maximalist or a minimalist approach. We're talking about a fretfully expensive watch that's broadly satisfying. It should fulfill every need of the owner and provide long-term pleasure commensurate to its quality and appeal. So, let's start with the ultimate sports watch. Now, not all of these watches cost $50,000, but they're going to cost the lion's share of $50,000. 50 being a limit in this case. The JLC Master Compressor Extreme Lab 2 is like the fist of God coming to humble your Richard Mille RM11. The Lab 2 arrived in 2014 and it's huge, yes, but titanium, sapphire, and ceramic, it's a monster packed to the gills with capability. Let's talk about the fit and the feel, because you have to establish that a person could actually wear this thing. Again, sapphire, titanium, and ceramic, very lightweight materials. And the case is effectively lugless. So look how it sits. It's actually not over the edge of my wrist, and it wears well. Again, think Richard Mille. Ergos are good enough that I've actually worn it on my tiny wrist. I've worn it about, I've spent time with it, I've lived with it, and it fits just fine. You need to like the big watch style, but the fit and the feel are excellent. This works even on my wrist. Hey guys, do you like complications? I know you do. Let's go over all of them right there. Nick, hold that shot for as long as you can. We've got a jumping digital disc chronograph with a 60-minute chronograph scale, a 24-hour scale for the chronograph, not 12, 24. We have a vertical clutch and a column wheel, so that's the chronograph. Now, we also have a GMT. So there's a stub hour hand, which you can hide under the primary hour hand. Go to the bottom of the dial. There's that little 24-hour scale that lets you know whether your second time zone is AM or PM. There's also a second column wheel for the multi-function push-button crown that allows you to wind the watch, and set the GMT. At the top of the dial, there's a radial power reserve that arcs from about 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and it will change from white to blue and back as the power waxes and wanes. We've got quick-release lugs that allow swapping between the leather and rubber straps. You get both with the Watch Note Limited Edition. The most advanced pin buckle in the world with twin pins, a long and a short adjustment system, so basically a micrometric adjustment built into the pin buckle. And then there's a quick release, so just as you can take the strap off the watch, you can take the buckle off the strap for true tool-free swapping. And this thing costs over 4 figures if you buy it as an accessory, so don't buy it as an accessory. Keep yours, don't lose it. We have a shock protected, and I mean monstrously shock protected, automatic winding twin barrel caliper, well, with 569 parts and over 70 joules. This movement is a 65-hour vertical clutch, column wheel, shock resistant, anti-magnetic, packed to the gills with features, but also with toughness and hand finished impressively. We have a manual hacking lever on the side of the watch to stop the movement. Remember, the crown is a push-button selector. It doesn't pull out. That's why there's a separate hacking lever. All of this is 100 meters water resistant, and it's even very well loomed. So again, no issues there. It costs, if you want to go out and buy one, you're talking maybe high 20s to high 30s, depending on boxes, papers, accessories, and variant, but less than a steel Daytona. How's that as a statement of values in the watch space? Guys, get with it. You could have a JLC that does literally everything in the world, or a Daytona. I'm not saying the Daytona's not a good watch, but it's a $15,000 watch, and that's what I'd pay for it. The JLC, I almost feel like you're getting a discount versus what it would cost if RM or Grubel Forsey made it. All right. Welcome, guys. Welcome, Richard. Welcome, Joey. Welcome, Mateo. Welcome to Steve Place. Welcome to the Arc Whaler. Welcome to DP, Evan, and William Rizzo. Welcome, guys. Welcome aboard. We are talking about one watch to rule them all. Okay, now where does the JLC Master Compressor Extreme Lab fall short? Not much, but it's huge. Again, I've worn it. This can be overcome. You do need some personal panache and confidence to daily this. It might be a weekend watch for most. It does use proprietary straps, so you're going to have to get something custom made or buy JLC. And an even more exotic Extreme Lab 1 exists if you have the patience and the resources to find it. A few dozen made, fully unlubricated movement, tourbillon, and GMT. That's about it. Buy the Extreme Lab 2 with confidence. Okay, guys, how about a steel sports watch? Not that one. Not for $50,000. I mean this one. This one is going to be the one you want, and it's the only one you need because from Vacheron and Constantin comes the Overseas Self-Winding Generation 3. Now that brown dial was only available from 2016 to early 2018, and it was underappreciated from the beginning. It is super hard to find, and now, as always happens, the version no one wanted is the version everyone wants. Awareness is catching up with the brown dial's beauty and rarity. Prices for these now surpass those of the once dominant blue dial model. And go back 2 years, that was the exact opposite when these were touching $70,000 and the brown dial was like 25, 30 grand. Again, check those prices. See those 8 right there? Those 8 are the only ones on Chrono24. In comparison, there are 93 listings for blue dial 2nd generation or 3rd generation self-windings. So that should give you a little bit of a cue as to just how common or uncommon the brown dial is. And the Generation 3 Overseas has it all. It lacks for nothing. You've got quick release lugs with accessory straps in brown leather and brown rubber. You get both with the watch and steel. There are all sorts of accessories in the box, including an extra clasp, a deployant clasp, if you want to wear the watch on one of its straps. As for the bracelet, it's a gem. Everything about this bracelet was made right the first time. Beautifully finished, exquisitely crafted, and every single link in the bracelet is removable for precise sizing. Plus, there is a micro adjustment on each side of the clasp. It's sleeved and it pulls out and pushes in. You get 1.5 millimeters of adjustment on each side of the clasp. And remember, this is every link removable, 2 micro adjustments, and a quick release system. Despite all the moving parts, the bracelet feels luxuriously solid and robust. Okay, at 41 millimeters in diameter by 11.2 millimeters thick and only 48.8 millimeters lug to lug, this is a wearable watch, even on a small wrist. I love the way it looks, and without any exaggeration, I can tell you that a smaller wrist would even wear this well. If you got to get much smaller, say 14 centimeters, go with the rubber strap. It wears very flexible, easy to wear. My signature down the barrel fit angle offers clear evidence of how well, even on a 16 centimeter wrist, this sits. Look at how the bracelet splays out before curving down. There's your evidence that this is a really good match, and you can see it's flat. Movement quality meets expectations for the first display caseback, manufacturer caliber, and Geneva seal overseas automatic. Previously, you never got one. Now you get all 3, and the movement looks the part. Twin barrels yield 60 hours of power reserve. 5-position adjustment is chronometer-like, it is Geneva hallmark, and the quadruple finished 22-karat rotor is a highlight. Look at that compass rose pattern that's been engraved right in there. Movement size is 30.6 millimeters and equal to the case, so it's properly proportioned, it looks great. Water resistance is 150 meters. That's more than an Aquanaut, that's more than a Nautilus, a Royal Oak, which is only 50, or a Royal Oak Offshore, which is 100. You have to go for a Royal Oak Offshore diver to outdo this overseas. And even then, the Vacheron is 25,000 ampere per meter anti-magnetic, more than the Royal Oak, and very unexpected on a watch of this type, but welcome. Even at current watch prices, this is nowhere near many directly competing steel sports watch rivals. Again, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars. I would personally go with the Vacheron. That's a statement of my priorities and my assessment of quality. I think the Vacheron actually offers more than any 5711 or 5811. Vacheron has made a credible product, and the brown dial is simply the version I find most appealing for $50,000. Also, I've seen several green dial 5711s since that 1-year model was released in 2021. Since the 2016 launch, the brown dial overseas, I've seen a single example. That's it. That's it. That's in 8 years I've seen one. That's how scarce they are. I've seen several of the ultra-thin 2000V version. Okay. How about a dress watch? We're shifting gears, classically beautiful. Right around 50 grand will buy you the ultimate 2010s Zenith. Get a good look at that. Launched in 2015, that is the Zenith Academy Georges Favre. A tribute to the founder, a 150-piece edition, one watch for every year of the Zenith manufacturer's existence. Now you can see I photographed this one on publicity materials for Zenith's anniversary, and the man depicted behind the watch, it's the man himself, Georges Favre, founder of Zenith, as a young man in 1865. At 45 millimeters in rose gold, this isn't a small watch or a watch for bashful people, but it rises to the occasion of a great house's anniversary, and Zenith, up with JLC and De Bethune, one of my favorite brands. Fit is a barely there matter on my 16-centimeter wrist, but I'd wear it as an outlandish embrace of indulgence in quality and opulence. It does fit, just. This watch is built around a unique manual wind El Primero caliber 4810. The standard El Primero features like a 5 Hz escapement and a 50-hour power reserve, with power reserve indicator are present, but as a manual wind, non-chronograph, it's also unusually visible because there's no winding bridge or rotor to block your view. It's also an unconventional type of El Primero as it is manual and doesn't have a chrono. And take a look at that case back with stripes, gilding, bevels, black polish, and both blued and mirror-surfaced screws. This is a level of finish you won't find even on the new Dayfi Skyline tourbillon that came out at Watches and Wonders. This is finishing on a Patek on a Vacheron level. The fusee and chain system is a constant force device from the late Renaissance. It works like bicycle gears. In short, as the watch automatically selects an easier gear, the mainspring exhausts its energy. Also, check out the finishing on those dial-side steel bridges. They're satination and bevels. This watch is next level. A 575-piece chain unwinds from the fusee on the right to the barrel on the left. The barrel pulls the hyperboloid-shaped fusee, which in turn is geared to the drivetrain of the watch. The leverage of the fusee magnifies the force of the mainspring at the same rate that the mainspring's unwinding diminishes its force. The fusee ensures that for 50 hours, the watch enjoys constant force to the escapement and constant balance amplitude. As a result, this watch is able to attain a COSC Swiss chronometer certification, a true rarity on any haute horlogerie timepieces, as they tend to boast but not put up or shut up. This one puts up. All right, viewer wrist shots number 2. I asked, you answered, and in spectacular fashion. Tarek B of New Zealand rolls with his Longines Heritage Sector Dial and 1961 Peugeot 403. Old watches, or old style watches, and old cars have soul. Derek W of Michigan isn't fooling anyone with the oblique shot of his Rolex Milgauss GV. Oh, we know. Robert W. features the 1966 Batmobile as childhood dream car with his adulthood dream watch, the 40 years removed Tag Heuer Monaco chronograph. We have Larry S. of California who logs miles in his Tesla with Zenith Chronomaster Original Boutique Edition. I like them both. Warren P. of Jupiter, Florida shares his Breitling Navitimer Cosmonaut on the rarely seen Air Racer rigid metal bracelet. Guys, send your wrist shots to mondaymailbag@thewatchbox.com to see your wrist on my list. We have Abdul in the box. We've got Caliber YQG, a big fan of the Milgauss GV. Some are loving that Navi. We've got Nate Dogg saying 50,000 can get you any number of amazing pre-owned Patek complications like the 5205 annual calendar, 5960p flyback chrono annual calendar, or 5961A on the bracelet. I don't know about the one on the bracelet. I think that if you're getting a steel 5960, you're going to pay a bit more than 50 grand. I would love to think you wouldn't, but I think you will. Faisal is in the box, joining us from Jordan, staying up late with us there, along with Pacific Turtle, who loves that Zenith. Okay, one watch to rule them all. Let's go with one more Uber watch selection. The IWC Da Vinci 3752 perpetual calendar chronograph tourbillon moon phase. Launched in 1999, it was a manual wind version of the 3750 perpetual calendar chronograph that had come out at Basel in 1985. Now here, caliber 760-61 is based on the Valjoux 7760, essentially a manual wind 7750 Ebauche, but IWC massively modifies every single piece. From architecture to decoration to the regulator, this is a unique IWC construction. Take a good look and you can even see that IWC employed a flying tourbillon visible from the case back alone. Exquisite and a limited edition in all of its variants. 5 position adjusted like you expect of a chronometer style watch. Now, take a quick look in the upper left-hand corner where they store the alternative slide for future centuries like the 23rd, 24th, and 25th century. They thought of everything. 39 millimeters in gold or in platinum. This is a watch that you can buy for less than a steel Daytona, once again, because the market for these is sub $30,000 unless you go with the full solid gold engraved dial of the Four Seasons, which is at the bottom center, or a full bracelet, which you can see at the top right, or the platinum model, which you can see at the bottom left. That would be my choice. Even then, you're still going to make my $50,000 cutoff. This is a watch I could happily wear for the rest of my life. You've got a Kurt Klaus perpetual calendar, mechanically programmed and quick settable with the crown. You've got a chronograph, a flying tourbillon, plus the moon phase disc is aventurine glass. This watch has it all. All right, guys, let's take a different approach now. Building a $50,000 watch collection. Now we jump into the counterpoint. Not one watch, but several for a multifaceted, well-rounded collection. A quiver of watches designed to cover all your bases and all of your tastes. These watches can be more specialized, and the experience of learning about, searching for, purchasing, and wearing a set of watches may prove more satisfying than undertaking all of those experiences a single time with a one-watch approach. So let's see what I would pick personally. Granted, this can always be adjusted, and I could probably make 15 such combinations, but let's start with one that I think all of us can get on board with. The Jaeger-LeCoultre Amvox 2 chronograph. That was mine back in the day on the 4th of July. Here's a watch I can embrace because I owned it. And this was a watch that I enjoyed as probably my most worn watch for the 4 years that I had it. The Amvox series ran from 2004 to 2014, and it was the textbook example of how to do a car-watch collaboration right. Despite the common coincidence of interest in watches and cars among collectors of both, combining the two into a single product almost always backfires, pun intended. But with Jaeger dashboard instruments and Aston Martin, there was real history predating the link-up between the watches and the cars. Those instruments via British Jaeger had been featured in Aston Martin cars for many decades, so this was an organic combo. I would also say that the Amvox series was also a separate model line. It wasn't a set of car-branded watches from existing collections. Each one of them, including the mechanism, the case, and the dial, was custom designed, showing real commitment. The 44mm titanium Amvox 2 of 2006 was the jewel of the series. In my opinion, it had no chronograph pushers, which made it unique among all chronos. Instead, an articulated case, and here you could see the back, pivoted on ball bearings to activate the equivalent of a twin pusher chronograph. With no crowns and half the dial, top and bottom, as a trigger, it was easy to operate the chronograph with gloved hands, racing style. So those little screw downs on a Daytona, hard to get to them, especially with gloved hands. Here, you whack it at 12 o'clock to start, you whack it at 12 o'clock to stop, you reset by pushing it at 6, and you can even see the red-colored anodized chronograph hammers through the bottom of the dial. Very cool. Automotive inspired, you better believe it. But this chronograph could be partially or completely locked, with a slider on the 9 o'clock side if you wanted to make sure you didn't accidentally start, stop, or reset. They thought of everything. It was one of the most original and successful chronograph concepts of the 2000s. Automotive-inspired dial design. You can see only part of the dial is calibrated, much like a speedometer or a tachometer. The font of the numerals, the layout, even the gas cap design of the crown. All of this was auto-themed without being hyper-literal, which is probably why the watch has aged so well. Inside, a JLC manufacturer 750 series automatic movement provided 2 barrels, 65 hours of reserve, vertical clutch, column wheel, quick set with hacking seconds. It was available in titanium, black titanium, which was very cool, and platinum. All were limited editions, but the best price is for a standard titanium at just under $10,000 today. Hell, they cost 16 grand back in 2006. That is a bargain. And when I sent mine in for service back in 2014, I didn't even get charged a grand on the service. It was very impressive. Okay, in the box, Thomas Burnett joining in, Andy Watley, and Troy HD asking, why do you sell the JLC Amvox? Back in 2018, I sold almost all my JLCs. I thought I was leaving the industry and moving on from watches. Reversal of expectations. The company made a big play to bring me back into the fold, and I decided, you know what? I'm going to see this project to its end. And happily, I continued with Watchbox and now 1916. But at the time, that's why I sold my watches. I thought I was moving on to new experiences, new education, new priorities. Do I miss some of them? Yes. I probably would have kept the Amvox, the Duomet, and the Grand Memovox. All right, guys. Zenith Captain Windsor Annual Calendar Boutique Edition. One of my perennial best watches to buy. I've sung its praises here. 42 millimeters in stainless steel. This was a 2013 Zenith Boutique exclusive. It has a smoked palladium precious metal dial. And note it's not a conventional smoked. It's smoked at the top and at the bottom with a diagonal light colored line that sort of runs from 10 to 4. This is anything but a standard Moser Fumet. A precious metal dial with a unique gradient fade. It was very, very cool. Zenith El Primero caliber 4054 high beat automatic column wheel chrono, 50 hours of power reserve, and one of the great chronographs of all time. On the top, a Ludwig Oxlin designed wheel-based annual calendar with quickset. It is the same mechanism he designed for the famous MIH watch, which was also a chrono with an annual calendar, which makes it very cool. Ludwig is one of the blue chip innovators of this era, and he will be remembered as one of the great innovators of any era. Having this watch for this price with his imprimatur, perfect. Excellent fit right here. You will see on my wrist, wears with room to spare, and it wears well on most wrists. I wanted a calendar watch in this series and an El Primero in this collection of $50,000. So here's both of them in one timeless package. I got my calendar watch, I got my El Primero. Note that the calendar is expressed entirely through aperture-style displays or windows. Those are always easier to read. Last time we sold one of these, it moved for $6,500, which is more than fair. Viewer wrist shots number 3. You bring them to me and ever am I pleased, starting with Ryan M., who shares his handsome and classical Furlan Mari sector dial, a lovely watch, Corne de Vache lugs, crosshair center, Breguet Arabic numerals, and leaf hands. Doesn't get any better. Troy B. and his Rolex Submariner enjoy Sky Meadows State Park in Virginia. Not big sky country, not by Midwestern standards. They would lay claim to the phrase, but that's definitely a big sky. JCS reveals a colorful homage in the form of his LIP Numinesque chronograph. Gotta love orange watches. Ed K. joined our 1916 Newport Beach FP Journe exhibition with his Grand Seiko SBGJ 261. And Ed, it was a pleasure to talk watches with you. Guys, I'm going to be in New York from May 1st through May 4th. I hope to see you at our Watchbox, now 1916 store, 595 Madison Avenue. Again, RSVP at the 1916company.com because I'd love to see you there. I'm doing a workshop in Journe and in Debitoon. We're going to have incredible watches on hand. And again, just join me. It's free, it's fun, and I'll see you any one of those days. from 11 to 6 p.m. each evening. Okay. Building a $50,000 watch collection. I've spoken often and much about my belief that the alarm is the most practical complication, but you might be surprised to learn that my alarm watch selection isn't a JLC, a Vulcain, a Fortis, a Tudor, or any of the other brands known for alarm watches. No, the Glashütte Original Senator Diary is the ultimate alarm watch. Launched in 2010 and immediately forgotten, this was the most sophisticated alarm then, and it remains so today. The standard 42mm stainless steel model is big but wearable. I'm pulling the strap tight, and it was a tight, unbroken-in strap, but this does fit on my wrist. And it's purposefully large because it has a 31-day alarm with a 24-hour format and an on-off arming device. So let's go from the top. You could see that there is an alarm on-off window, so you know whether it's activated. Okay, around that, you can see 31 days. That's not the date. The date is at 3 o'clock. That 31-day scale is for setting the date on which you want the alarm to activate. And then at the bottom, there's that little window. That is a 24-hour scale, so you can set which of the day's 24 hours the alarm will sound on any day up to 31 days in advance. And if you change the date, it automatically adjusts the alarm to make sure the alarm is still set correctly. That is amazing. And I can tell you, having experienced many of these, you can go see my review on Watchbox Reviews, but the sonic quality of the alarm is excellent and sufficient to wake a sleeper. It's a good sounding alarm and it's a loud alarm. This German watch has a handsome automatic movement with a 55-hour power reserve, 2 barrels, a suitable finish, and an unusual zero reset flyback system to synchronize the second hand. Figure a price between $10,000 and $12,000, let's call it 11 grand to get into one of these. But I'm also going to need a swimmable watch that's got at least 100 meters of water resistance for peace of mind. Therefore, I'm returning to a 2014 launch and a watch I haven't mentioned in a while, the 42mm steel ball engineered to Magneto S. Milgauss, eat your heart out. This is the most feature-packed sub-$5,000, even sub-$3,000 watch I've ever encountered. There's plenty to see on the dial, which is straightforward and legible. 100 meters, COSC chronometer, activated, radioactive, self-activating, non-UV dependent tritium tracers, and a bezel that controls the mag iris. More on that in a moment. So, the caseback has even more to offer. We have spring lock. It's a shroud around the hairspring that allows you to basically use the watch under conditions of atrocious impact. And not only does it protect the hairspring, but it keeps it controlled and constrained. It's both there for durability and chronometry, and it serves both purposes. Let's go back to the caseback. You could see anti-magnetic, 80,000 ampere per meter. It has an inner retractable iris of paramagnetic mu metal that closes to a shield around the movement. Think Stargate, and you can get an idea of how this thing moves. So that's how it closes to cover up the movement when you want anti-magnetic shielding, but then when you want to see your movement, it opens so you can see the caliber, and you can actually see the little gold spring lock shroud around the hairspring. Go back to closed, and now go to open. How cool is that? That's your anti-magnetic system, and it's controlled by turning the bezel. The movement is a chronometer grade 2824, but I think you can see that this ball, like many Zinn models, incorporates a huge range of original innovations and technology without having a manufacturer movement, but it's got so many features that there's real original added value and patents here. These are rare, but shop around. You should be able to find one for around $2,000, but let's say it's $2,500 just to be sure. We have $20,000 left. Okay, just because we're not big game hunting in this multi-watch scenario doesn't mean we can't include a big piece in our $50,000 multi-watch collection. We just need to be strategic. So, how about a dress watch? How about a Vacheron? It's possible, and exquisitely so. Meet the 2010 Vacheron Constantin Historique Ultrafine 1955, based on the 200th anniversary 6099 from 1955. It's almost a re-edition of that watch. At 36 millimeters in diameter by 4.1 millimeters thick, this is still among the thinnest mechanical watches ever made. It sits flush on the wrist. Look at that. The span across the wrist is only 42 millimeters. Men, women, boys and girls, you can play. All wrists are properly sized. The case flank is like a blade. Watch out, don't get cut. Caliber 1003 makes it possible. You're not deceived. This is developed by JLC. It's a lot like their 849 caliber, but precedes that one. Created for AP, which first used it in 1953, and Vacheron, which first used it in 1955. It is 1.64 millimeters thick and constructed entirely from 18-karat yellow gold, bridges and plates. It features Geneva hallmark finish complicated by the need to apply decoration to tiny surfaces and mostly in delicate gold too. That regulator, look at it, you can't quite see it, but the regulator index over the balance is a thing of beauty. And all the bevels are by hand, and even the teeth of the ratchet wheel and the crown wheels are micro-chamfered. And despite the small size, it still receives a chronometer-style 5-position adjustment. So very possible to own. And let's say you're out $16,000 after some light negotiations. Our grand total comes to $46,000. Between shipping and possible services for some of these older watches, we're going to be right around our $50,000 budget. Not only that, but we now have a watch for every occasion. So which do you prefer? A $50,000 or less mega watch to be your one and only? Or a small collection for an equal amount of money? For those of you who are not watching this live, let me know in the comments below. And let me know which watches you would buy if it's going to be one or several. Viewer wrist shots number 4. Your analog on my digital. In fact, we have both right here, with Ted B of Nashville, who wears his Omega Speedmaster Schumacher with pride while mini-gaming. Michael H. shares his dynamite vintage tritium dial JLC Master Chronograph Mecha Quartz. That's right, it's not a modern phenomenon, they've been around for a while. Brian M. lives the good life with his Longines Dolce Vita Heritage in white gold, beautiful and rarely seen, exquisite numerals and hands. Frank H. submits our first and possibly our last weed and watches shot, if this one gets me in trouble, which was definitely no accident. You could see, based on the engraved rotor of this Dan Reuter DR02, if we can get that rotor up, this was very much premeditated. And just in case you don't see the rotor graphic, he actually had a leaf of a certain plant engraved on the golden rotor. Tarek H. takes us home with his Rolex Submariner against the majesty of Mount Fuji. Send your wrist shots to mondaymailbag@thewatchbox.com to see your watch on this box. We'll need a new catchphrase now that we're 1916. Thanks to Nick, he did an awesome job, and thanks to you for joining in and making the best job in the world possible. Time out, Tim out, and thanks for logging on.